In the shadowy halls of Fairview Memorial Hospital, a devoted police dog named Orion came to say his final goodbye to Officer Lauren Mitchell. But in that silent, fluorescent-lit room, Orion sensed something terribly wrong, a scent he recognized from a deadly night at the docks. Would his desperate attempt to alert others uncover the truth in time? Join Orion on an emotional journey of courage, loyalty, and unbreakable bonds, proving once again that sometimes the greatest hero walks on four paws. The late autumn winds swept through the coastal town of Fairview, Maine, swirling fallen leaves across quiet streets and whispering softly along the docks, where waves crashed gently against wooden pilings. Clouds hung low, masking the stars, while a chilly drizzle fell intermittently, turning the streets slick under the soft yellow glow of old street lamps. Fairview was a picturesque community, known for its scenic harbor views and peaceful neighborhoods. Yet tonight, the town seemed heavy with a quiet sense of unease. Inside Fairview Memorial Hospital, stark fluorescent lights bathed the intensive care unit in an unsettling brightness, contrasting sharply with the deep shadows cast in the corners. Officer Lauren Mitchell lay motionless in a hospital bed, her athletic frame hidden beneath blankets, tubes, and wires that monitored her faint vital signs. Lauren was 32, strong and independent, known in her small police department for bravery and fierce dedication to justice. Her chestnut hair, usually tied back neatly for duty, now lay loosely around her pale face, accentuating the vulnerability that rarely ever showed in her alert, hazel eyes. A bandage wrapped tightly around her left shoulder, hiding the severe injury she'd sustained during an encounter at Fairview Harbor earlier that day. An encounter that had gone terribly wrong, leaving Lauren critically wounded and her colleagues deeply shaken. At Lauren's bedside, her loyal partner Orion sat silently, his large German shepherd frame rigid with attention. Orion, 6 years old and nearing the prime of his service life, possessed the classic look of his breed: thick, black and tan fur, deep brown intelligent eyes, erect ears sharply pointed, and an unwaveringly confident stance. Known throughout Fairview PD as an extraordinary canine officer, Orion was respected for his sharp instincts and exceptional dedication to Lauren. Tonight, his usual composed demeanor was strained, his keen eyes searching for the smallest movements, the tiniest signs from his partner's still form. Beside Orion stood Officer Ethan Carter, Lauren's closest colleague. Ethan, a sturdy and quietly thoughtful man in his mid-30s, had a rugged, dependable appearance. His sandy blonde hair was always slightly disheveled, matching his perpetually earnest and observant blue eyes. Known among fellow officers as calm under pressure, Ethan was fiercely protective of Lauren, having trained alongside her for nearly a decade. Tonight, though, his typically steady gaze revealed a mix of worry and fatigue as he placed a reassuring hand lightly on Orion's thick coat. "She's tough," Ethan murmured softly to Orion, as much to reassure himself as the dog. "She'll pull through, buddy." Orion turned his head slightly, ears twitching at Ethan's familiar voice, but his attention quickly shifted toward the hospital hallway beyond the glass observation window. Footsteps echoed softly along the sterile corridor. Orion's body tensed, eyes locked onto the approaching figure, a tall man in a white doctor's coat, whose presence immediately raised Orion's hackles. Dr. Jonathan Reed entered Lauren's room quietly, his movements deliberate, cautious. In his mid-40s, Reed was imposing, nearly 6'2", with angular features and piercing gray eyes that were coldly analytical, devoid of the warmth typical of most caregivers. His neatly trimmed salt and pepper hair matched his controlled appearance, yet something unsettling lingered in his gaze. Orion noted instantly that something was off, a subtle tension in the doctor's stance, an artificial calmness that didn't align with his sharp scent, chemical, unfamiliar, and wrong. Ethan turned to greet the doctor politely, oblivious to Orion's suspicion. "Good evening, Dr. Reed. Any changes?" The doctor offered Ethan a tight, practiced smile. "Stable for now, Officer Carter. We'll continue monitoring her condition closely." Reed moved smoothly toward Lauren's bedside, examining the foredrip with precise, practiced gestures. Orion emitted a low, rumbling growl from deep in his chest, startling Ethan. "Easy, Orion," Ethan murmured, placing a firm hand on the dog's collar. "Dr. Reed is here to help." Orion ignored Ethan's soothing words, his gaze fixed unwaveringly on Reed. The dog could not voice the familiarity of that chemical scent, a scent he'd encountered earlier at Fairview Harbor, a scent tied directly to Lauren's attacker. Orion's growl intensified, his sharp eyes narrowed in warning. Dr. Reed paused, glancing down at Orion briefly, annoyance flickering briefly in his usually calm expression. "Perhaps the dog should wait outside, officer. This stress isn't beneficial." Ethan hesitated, uncomfortable with dismissing Orion's instincts. Before he could respond, another person entered the room, her arrival changing the atmosphere immediately. Dr. Emily Foster, a young veterinarian called in by Ethan himself, stepped softly into the room, her presence quietly reassuring. Emily was 29, petite yet resilient, with vibrant red curls and compassionate green eyes that sparkled with quiet intelligence. She carried herself with quiet confidence and sincerity, a calming presence that animals seemed innately to trust. Ethan had met Emily previously, impressed by her dedication during a charity event for Fairview's local animal shelter. Emily noticed Orion's agitation immediately. She approached gently, kneeling next to him and placing her hand softly on his shoulder. Orion relaxed slightly at her reassuring touch, but remained vigilant, eyes never leaving Dr. Reed. "Orion seems very unsettled," Emily observed carefully. "Has he been like this the whole time?" "No," Ethan replied, his tone cautious. "He's only reacted this way with Dr. Reed." Dr. Reed straightened abruptly, an edge creeping into his voice. "I assure you, Officer Carter, there's nothing unusual here. Perhaps the stress of the situation has unsettled your dog." Emily studied Reed silently for a moment, then shifted her focus back to Orion. "Perhaps," she said neutrally, her eyes betraying skepticism. Orion pressed himself closer to Emily's leg, silently urging her to sense what he couldn't fully convey. Before Ethan could inquire further, Reed abruptly excused himself, claiming a need to check another patient. His exit was swift and purposeful, and as the door swung shut behind him, Orion's body slightly relaxed, though the suspicion lingered in his eyes. "Strange," Ethan murmured, glancing toward Emily. "Do you think Orion senses something?" Emily gently stroked Orion's fur thoughtfully. "Dogs are incredibly perceptive, especially trained canine officers. Orion isn't acting out of mere anxiety. He recognizes something specific." Ethan nodded slowly, his instincts aligning with hers. "I trust Orion's judgment. But without concrete proof, we have nothing to follow up." Emily hesitated, a spark of determination appearing in her eyes. "Maybe proof is closer than we think." Outside, the drizzle intensified into a steady rain, droplets tapping insistently against the window panes. The harbor's distant lighthouse sent rhythmic flashes of white through the dark night, piercing the gloom momentarily before fading back into shadow. Ethan felt a chill run down his spine, instinctively sensing that the danger that had placed Lauren in this bed was not yet over. At Lauren's bedside, Orion sat vigilantly, unwilling to relax, unwilling to let down his guard. Something sinister was afoot, hidden beneath the surface of Fairview's peaceful facade. Orion knew it. Ethan felt it. Emily sensed it. They just needed proof. Rain pelted relentlessly against the windows of Fairview Memorial Hospital, the rhythmic drumming sound echoing through the sterile halls, creating a somber backdrop to Ethan Carter's quiet vigilance. Sitting alone in the waiting area outside Lauren's ICU room, Ethan rubbed tired eyes and reflected deeply. Lauren's condition had stabilized, but her fragile recovery left his mind restless. His thoughts wandered to the events at Fairview Harbor earlier that day, where everything had spiraled out of control. Fairview Harbor was normally picturesque, its docks bustling with fishermen and pleasure boats. Today, however, it had been the scene of something far darker. Ethan vividly recalled Lauren's voice crackling urgently over the radio, her words sharp, tense, and controlled. Suspects sighted. Warehouse 5, requesting immediate backup. By the time Ethan and Orion had arrived, sirens blaring, it was already chaos. He remembered Orion, powerful muscles rippling beneath his black and tan coat as he surged forward through the cluttered warehouse, his keen nose guiding him without hesitation. The canine's presence was always a source of reassurance, but even Orion's speed couldn't prevent disaster this time. Gunshots erupted unexpectedly, shattering the calm morning, and Ethan's heart had plummeted when he saw Lauren fall, clutching her shoulder as blood seeped alarmingly through her uniform. Ethan had shouted her name desperately, his voice lost in the gunfire's echoes, while Orion lunged bravely toward the attackers, chasing them through corridors of stacked crates. But the mastermind, an elusive figure known only as the Ghost, had vanished, leaving Lauren gravely injured and their investigation in tatters. Ethan's recollections were abruptly interrupted by approaching footsteps. Captain William Bill Hartley strode briskly down the hallway. Bill was a formidable presence, tall and broad-shouldered. In his late 50s, with thinning silver hair meticulously combed back and piercing blue eyes that rarely revealed his true intentions. Known in the precinct as decisive and authoritative, Bill commanded respect, though Ethan had recently sensed something troubling beneath his composed exterior. "Ethan," Bill greeted curtly, his gaze unreadable. "How's Officer Mitchell holding up?" "Stable, Captain," Ethan replied carefully, observing Bill's demeanor closely. "Doctors say it's still critical." Orion seems unsettled, though. He was acting strangely around Dr. Reed earlier. Bill raised an eyebrow dismissively, clearly uninterested. "Dog sense many things, Ethan. Trust the doctors. Reed has my confidence." Ethan's instincts warned him to tread cautiously. He'd recently noticed Bill frequently meeting privately with unfamiliar faces and discreetly receiving late-night calls, actions entirely unlike his normally disciplined superior. Ethan had already begun quietly digging into Bill's recent communications, driven by a growing suspicion of internal corruption connected to the harbor incident. "Of course, sir," Ethan responded neutrally, maintaining his careful mask of respect. "I'm just keeping vigilant." Bill nodded curtly, casting one last lingering glance toward Lauren's room before walking away without another word, leaving Ethan alone with his troubling suspicions. Determined, Ethan reached for his phone, dialing a trusted ally. Moments later, Detective Marcus Clayton answered, his voice gruff and tired. Marcus was 45, stocky with deep-set brown eyes, a perpetual 5 o'clock shadow, and a quiet wisdom honed by 20 years on the force. He was known for fairness and relentless pursuit of truth, traits Ethan now desperately needed. "Marcus," Ethan began cautiously, "I might need your help on something sensitive." Meanwhile, inside Lauren's dimly lit room, Orion lay quietly beside her bed, his brown eyes focused unwaveringly on her pale face, still sensing danger despite Dr. Reed's absence. Lauren remained unconscious, unaware of Orion's vigilance or Ethan's private investigation. Orion drifted into uneasy sleep, memories taking hold. Weeks prior, Lauren had laughed while scratching Orion's favorite spot behind his ears after a successful day at the harbor patrol. Orion remembered clearly the ease of that afternoon. Sunlight glinting off Lauren's badge, her confident stride steady beside him. That serenity had shattered when Lauren received a call about suspicious cargo activity. Together, they'd investigated warehouse number 5, encountering containers marked as medical supplies. But Orion had immediately detected an alarming scent, sharp, chemical, wrong. Lauren's intuition trusted Orion implicitly, her hazel eyes narrowing in caution. "Stay alert, buddy," she'd whispered, drawing her weapon. Moments later, shadows erupted with gunfire, the ambush catching them off guard. Orion had reacted instantly, diving protectively toward Lauren. He could still recall the searing scent of gunpowder and blood, the piercing cry as Lauren fell. Snapping awake from his troubled dream, Orion rose, tense and alert, nose twitching instinctively at another disturbing scent lingering faintly in the air. But before he could further investigate, the door creaked softly, admitting Emily Foster carrying a small tray with medical supplies and Orion's favorite treats. Emily knelt gently beside Orion, her vibrant curls tied loosely back, green eyes warm and understanding. "Hey there, hero," she whispered affectionately, scratching softly behind his ears. Orion relaxed slightly under her soothing touch, though his vigilance never wavered. She paused thoughtfully, glancing towards Lauren. "We'll figure this out. Ethan trusts you, and so do I." Emily's quiet determination resonated strongly with Orion, reinforcing his resolve. Their mutual trust formed a silent bond that steadied him, encouraging patience and strategy. Meanwhile, in a dimly lit coffee shop across town, Ethan sat opposite Marcus Clayton, cups steaming between them, both men speaking in hushed tones. Marcus leaned forward, eyes narrowed thoughtfully. "So you're saying Bill's connections to Reed aren't accidental?" Ethan nodded grimly. "There've been too many irregularities, off-the-record meetings, phone calls I can't trace. I think Bill knows something about Lauren's attack." Marcus sighed heavily. "Bill Hartley? I always thought he was above reproach. But if you're right, Ethan, it means this goes deeper than just smuggling." "Exactly," Ethan confirmed. "I need solid proof before making accusations. If we tip our hand prematurely, they'll bury everything." Marcus scratched his stubbled chin thoughtfully. "Leave it with me. I've still got contacts and records. Maybe we can find something concrete." "Careful," Ethan warned, his voice serious. "We don't know who else is involved." Marcus nodded slowly, understanding the gravity of Ethan's warning. Both men rose, exchanging firm handshakes filled with mutual respect and quiet resolve before slipping out separately into the rain-slicked streets of Fairview. Back in Lauren's hospital room, Orion finally rested his head gently beside her hand, ears pricked to every sound. Lauren remained unmoving, but Orion felt a faint shift beneath her fingertips, a tiny flutter, the barest hint of recognition. His heart surged hopefully, but Orion restrained himself, patient and watchful. He knew the danger remained, hidden within the hospital, masked behind trusted faces. Until Lauren awoke, Orion would remain steadfast, guarding fiercely against any threat. Rain continued steadily outside, washing away superficial calmness, leaving behind a town quietly bracing for a coming storm, unaware how deeply betrayal ran within its heart. The storm that had hovered over Fairview finally cleared overnight, leaving the morning sky a washed-out blue streaked with ribbons of pale gray. The hospital seemed quieter now, bathed in the pale sunlight filtering gently through the windows. Orion remained alert at Lauren's bedside, ears constantly twitching at every distant sound. His instincts warned him clearly, danger lingered close. Dr. Emily Foster arrived early that morning, carrying a worn leather satchel filled with medical supplies and freshly baked treats from the small bakery next to her veterinary clinic. Emily always arrived prepared, reflecting her meticulous and compassionate nature. She paused briefly, smiling at Orion, who greeted her warmly with a wagging tail, a rare gesture indicating trust. Despite his vigilance, Orion had developed an undeniable bond with Emily, recognizing her genuine care. "Good morning, Orion," Emily whispered softly, gently scratching behind his ears. Her vibrant red curls cascaded loosely over her shoulders, her expressive green eyes brimming with concern as she glanced toward Lauren, still unconscious. "We'll get through this," she promised both herself and Orion, her voice unwavering despite the uncertainty ahead. Orion's expression turned abruptly tense, his nose twitching sharply. Emily paused, observing carefully as Orion's posture stiffened and his ears perked toward the corridor. Moments later, Dr. Jonathan Reed entered the room, his steps light yet purposeful. Immediately, Orion emitted a low growl, the sound resonating with unmistakable hostility. Emily noticed Orion's aggressive stance immediately. His hackles raised, eyes narrowed, unwaveringly locked onto Reed. Dr. Reed paused momentarily, his expression carefully neutral as he studied Orion and Emily. His gray eyes, cold and calculating, flickered briefly with irritation. "Dr. Foster, I wasn't aware you'd be here this early." Emily's posture subtly straightened, her voice polite yet assertive. "Lauren and Orion need constant supervision. Orion seems unsettled whenever you're present." Reed's mouth twitched slightly into an icy smile. A dog's discomfort isn't always medically relevant, but a police dog's instincts often are, Emily replied firmly, her unwavering gaze challenging Reed openly. Reed merely nodded curtly before leaving quickly, evidently uneasy. Emily knelt beside Orion once Reed departed, gently stroking the German shepherd's fur. "What do you sense?" she whispered thoughtfully, her voice filled with determination. Orion pressed himself closer to Emily, his keen eyes looking toward the door Reed had just exited. Emily decided to follow Orion's instincts, quietly retrieving her phone to text Ethan Carter. The message was short but crucial. "Orion senses something dangerous about Reed. Proceed cautiously." Meanwhile, Ethan Carter was seated in the cramped records room at Fairview Police Headquarters. The room smelled faintly of old paper and coffee, shelves crowded with dusty file boxes. Ethan leaned forward, examining reports closely under the dim glow of the lamp. Detective Marcus Clayton, seated beside him, flipped through files, his brow furrowed deeply with concentration. Suddenly, Marcus stopped, his eyes narrowing sharply. "Ethan, look at this shipment manifest signed by Bill Hartley. Every single suspicious cargo at the harbor was approved directly by him." Ethan took the documents carefully, a sinking feeling heavy in his chest. The evidence was damning. His trusted superior was undeniably implicated. "He's been signing off cargo inspections himself," Ethan muttered bitterly, ensuring these shipments bypass standard scrutiny. Marcus exhaled slowly, clearly troubled. "But look who co-signed these documents," Marcus added grimly, pointing at another signature scribbled hastily beside Bill's neat handwriting. Ethan's heart skipped painfully when he recognized the second signature, Jonathan Reed, listed not as a doctor, but as an external customs consultant. "Dr. Reed," Ethan murmured incredulously, feeling a surge of adrenaline. "Reed's directly involved in this smuggling operation?" Marcus nodded solemnly, and Hartley facilitated the cover-up. Ethan quickly took photographs of the documents, securing digital copies before carefully replacing the physical files. As they hurriedly exited the records room, Ethan felt an acute pang of betrayal and anger. Bill Hartley had been a mentor to him. Discovering his involvement left Ethan reeling, shaken by the depth of deceit he'd uncovered. Just outside the precinct, Ethan's phone buzzed. Reading Emily's message, his concern spiked sharply. "Marcus, Reed is at the hospital right now. Orion senses danger. We need to move immediately." Marcus nodded grimly, heading toward his vehicle. "I'll alert an FBI contact. We'll need backup." Back at the hospital, Emily paced slowly near Lauren's bed, constantly glancing toward Orion. Despite the quiet, tension permeated the air. Orion sat rigid, ears twitching nervously as footsteps approached once more, lighter than before, softer and quicker. Nurse Ava Bennett entered the room quietly, a new face Emily hadn't seen before. Ava was petite, with short blonde hair and a friendly face, though her eyes seemed guarded and cautious. "Good morning, Dr. Foster," Ava greeted timidly, holding a small tray of medication. "I'm covering shifts temporarily." Dr. Reed requested a change in Lauren's medication. Emily hesitated briefly, alarm bells ringing clearly. Orion emitted a soft growl, immediately suspicious. "Let me see those medications first," Emily requested cautiously, maintaining a calm, professional demeanor. Ava seemed briefly startled, but handed over the tray without hesitation. Emily swiftly recognized irregularities, unusual dosages, mismatched drug labels. Her expression darkened instantly. "Who gave these orders?" "Dr. Reed," Ava replied nervously, glancing anxiously between Emily and Orion. "He specifically emphasized these needed administering immediately." Emily swiftly discarded the medications, eyes sharp with sudden resolve. "These are incorrect, potentially dangerous. Alert hospital security immediately." Ava paled visibly, nodding quickly. "Of course," she whispered, hurrying out nervously, clearly shaken. Within moments, Ethan and Marcus burst urgently into the room, faces flushed with determination. "Emily, Orion was right," Ethan announced breathlessly, immediately noticing Emily's grave expression. "Reed and Hartley are directly connected, smuggling dangerous cargo through Fairview Harbor. And Reed just tried to administer unsafe medications," Emily added sharply, her green eyes filled with quiet rage. Orion suddenly barked urgently, ears perked, alerting everyone. Rapid footsteps echoed urgently from the hallway, security personnel rushing forward. Ethan stepped protectively beside Emily, ready to confront the threat. However, the security team brought alarming news. Dr. Reed had abruptly disappeared, leaving only discarded identification behind. Ethan exhaled sharply, frustrated but determined. Marcus immediately coordinated with the FBI, initiating a citywide search. Ethan turned to Orion, kneeling carefully beside the vigilant canine. "You saved Lauren again," he murmured gratefully, stroking Orion's fur softly. Orion leaned affectionately against Ethan, but his sharp gaze remained directed toward the corridor. The imminent threat had briefly retreated, yet Orion's instincts warned clearly. The darkness had merely stepped into deeper shadows. The battle was far from over. Nightfall wrapped Fairview in darkness, streetlights barely piercing the thick fog rolling off the harbor. At Fairview Memorial Hospital, Emily Foster paced anxiously beside Lauren's bed, carefully checking vitals and adjusting the foredrip. Emily's typically steady hands shook slightly under the strain, her normally composed face reflecting deep concern. Lauren's condition had suddenly worsened, her breathing shallow, skin pale beneath the harsh glow of hospital lights. Emily glanced frequently toward Orion, whose massive frame remained tense, muscles coiled, brown eyes alertly focused on every shadowy movement outside the room. A sudden crash echoed from down the hallway, shattering the fragile calm. Orion immediately sprang to his feet, hackles raised, eyes narrowing suspiciously. Moments later, a frantic nurse burst into the room. Young Jessie Martin, just 24, petite with short auburn hair and wide blue eyes brimming with panic. Jessie was gentle and soft-spoken, known for kindness among patients, but tonight fear distorted her normally calm demeanor. "Dr. Foster," Jessie gasped breathlessly. "Security just found Dr. Reed's real ID hidden in a locker. He's an imposter named Nicholas Dalton, connected to major smuggling operations. FBI is coming, but Reed's still somewhere in the building." Emily's heart surged anxiously. "Lock down this wing immediately," she ordered, voice unwavering despite internal panic. Jessie nodded hurriedly, quickly running to trigger the emergency security protocols. "Orion," Emily whispered urgently, eyes fixed determinately on the alert dog. "Find Reed. Protect Lauren." Instantly, Orion launched into action, bolting down the corridor, his strong legs swiftly covering ground. Emily returned swiftly to Lauren's side, focusing completely on stabilizing her dangerously fluctuating vitals. Meanwhile, across town, Ethan Carter sped through Fairview's quiet streets, pulse racing, thoughts chaotic. Earlier that evening, Captain Hartley had summoned Ethan privately, confronting him with icy fury over leaked documents implicating Hartley himself. Bill Hartley's composed, authoritative exterior had shattered, replaced by a ruthless desperation Ethan had never witnessed. Ethan narrowly escaped an attempted ambush, a shot grazing his shoulder as he fled police headquarters through a hidden maintenance exit. Now his shoulder burned painfully blood seeping slowly through torn fabric, but adrenaline numbed the wound. Ethan knew Orion and Emily were Lauren's best chance. He had to reach them quickly. Ethan dialed Emily's number, heart sinking when the call went unanswered. He pressed the accelerator harder, determinedly maneuvering through fog-choked roads toward Fairview Memorial. Back at the hospital, Orion navigated dark hallways swiftly, guided by Reed's bitter chemical scent, the acrid tang unmistakably linked to harbor smugglers. He tracked the trail relentlessly, muscles rippling powerfully beneath sleek fur. Orion finally spotted Reed, lurking near an emergency exit, hurriedly unlocking the door. Reed, Nicholas Dalton, turned sharply, startled as Orion lunged fiercely toward him. Dalton was tall and wiry, features harsh and angular, completely different from the calm mask of Dr. Reed. Panic widened his cold eyes briefly, then replaced swiftly by fierce defiance. Orion's powerful jaws snapped, narrowly missing Dalton's arm. Dalton swung a metal rod frantically, attempting desperately to fend Orion off, but the trained German shepherd expertly evaded each blow. Suddenly, the exit door burst open. FBI agents led by Special Agent Alex Harper stormed in swiftly, weapons drawn. Harper, an athletic figure in his early 40s with short-cropped dark hair and focused eyes, barked commands authoritatively. FBI, hands up Dalton. Cornered, Dalton hesitated momentarily before surrendering angrily, his face twisted bitterly. Harper quickly restrained him, nodding respectfully toward Orion, acknowledging the dog's bravery and precision. Orion's ears pricked briefly at distant sounds, Ethan's hurried footsteps echoing faintly down distant hallways. Ethan finally reached Lauren's room, chest heaving breathlessly. Emily gasped at his injured shoulder, immediately assisting him inside. "Ethan, you're bleeding." "It's nothing," Ethan insisted weakly, forcing a reassuring smile. "Hardly try to silence me, Emily. He knows everything." Emily paled slightly, fear deepening in her green eyes. The FBI just apprehended Dalton. Reed was a fake. Orion saved us again. But Lauren's condition is still critical. Ethan grasped Emily's hand tightly, eyes fiercely determined. "Lauren's strong. She'll fight. But Hartley won't stop now. We must act quickly." Emily nodded resolutely, tending swiftly to Ethan's shoulder wound while he informed her urgently about Hartley's treachery, his connections to Dalton, and the full scale of the dangerous smuggling operation. Meanwhile, Special Agent Harper approached Ethan quietly, expression stern yet sympathetic. "Officer Carter, we've uncovered deeper layers. Dalton's network spans multiple states. Your Captain Hartley has vanished. We'll protect you and Officer Mitchell, but we need your cooperation." Ethan exhaled heavily, nodding solemnly. "Whatever it takes, Agent Harper." Orion soon reappeared at Emily's side, his calm presence reassuring amid chaos. Emily knelt gratefully, affectionately stroking his fur. "You did well, Orion. Lauren will be proud." Orion pressed close, briefly relaxing beneath Emily's gentle touch, though his eyes remained alertly fixed on Lauren's fragile form. Emily resumed efforts tirelessly, managing medication precisely, silently praying Lauren's condition would stabilize soon. As hours passed anxiously, dawn broke gently over Fairview, golden sunlight gradually dispersing lingering fog. Lauren's breathing finally steadied, her pulse growing stronger under Emily's careful vigilance. Relief flooded Ethan, his exhaustion momentarily forgotten amid cautious hope. Orion sensed Lauren's slight improvement instantly, ears perking gently as he approached closely, softly laying his head beside her hand. Suddenly, Lauren's fingers shifted slightly, weakly brushing Orion's soft fur. Orion whined quietly, tail wagging slightly, warmth filling his eyes. Ethan and Emily shared relieved smiles, briefly comforted. Ethan gently squeezed Emily's hand appreciatively, gratitude filling his voice. "Thank you, Emily. You saved her." Emily shook her head softly, her voice humble yet resolute. "We saved her, together." Meanwhile, Agent Harper received urgent radio updates. His expression darkened abruptly, eyes turning sharply toward Ethan. Hartley's escaped Fairview. Intelligence indicates he's coordinating further operations elsewhere. This isn't over yet. Ethan's jaw tightened determinedly. We'll be ready, he vowed firmly, eyes meeting Orion's steady gaze. Orion returned Ethan's determination silently, ready to face whatever lay ahead. As daylight warmed Fairview's quiet streets, Ethan, Emily, and Orion formed an unspoken alliance of trust, bonded tightly by shared bravery and loyalty. Though Hartley remained a dangerous adversary at large, their collective strength promised resilience against future threats. Early evening shadows began to stretch across Fairview Memorial Hospital, painting corridors with muted amber and violet hues as sunlight slowly faded through the windows. Ethan Carter sat tensely near Lauren's bed, meticulously reviewing documents Marcus Clayton had handed over earlier. His injured shoulders still ached, but he ignored the discomfort, mind sharply focused. Orion lay quietly at his feet, ears twitching occasionally, always alert. Emily Foster checked Lauren's 4 lines, her usually composed face revealing subtle anxiety as she continuously monitored Lauren's condition. Though stable, Lauren remained unconscious, her breath steady but shallow beneath the blankets. A sudden knock interrupted their tense silence. FBI Special Agent Alex Harper stepped inside, his demeanor official and assertive. Beside him stood Special Agent Rachel Bennett, newly arrived from the Boston FBI office. Rachel, 38, tall and strikingly poised, wore her dark hair neatly pinned back, exuding calm efficiency. Known for thoroughness and skepticism, Rachel's dark eyes critically assessed every detail before trusting it. Officer Carter, Harper began formally, Agent Bennett will oversee this investigation from now on. She's cautious but fair. Ethan rose stiffly, nodding politely. Welcome, Agent Bennett. I appreciate your assistance. Rachel acknowledged with a brief nod, her expression guarded. Her gaze shifted critically toward Orion. I understand the dog has been instrumental, but I'm skeptical of relying solely on canine instincts. We'll need hard evidence to move forward. Ethan exchanged a brief, concerned glance with Emily, but nodded diplomatically. Understood. We'll provide everything necessary. Shortly afterward, while Ethan and Emily briefed Rachel thoroughly about Captain Hartley and Dalton's network, Orion began pacing restlessly, clearly agitated by something unnoticed. His keen senses alerted sharply to the bitter chemical odor drifting faintly through ventilation ducts, subtle but distinct. Orion whined urgently, pressing firmly against Emily's leg. Emily knelt immediately, alertly noticing Orion's agitation. What is it? Orion, she whispered, recognizing his urgent signal clearly. Simultaneously, a gentle knock sounded at the door again. Nurse Ava Bennett returned, holding a medication tray, cautiously. Ava appeared visibly stressed, her petite frame shaking slightly, eyes nervously darting around the room. Dr. Foster, new medications prescribed urgently for Officer Mitchell. Dr. Lawson from the night shift insisted. Emily paused sharply, her instincts warning clearly. Orion growled low, fur bristling suspiciously. Ethan quickly stepped forward, intercepting Ava before she approached Lauren. Who's Dr. Lawson? I've never heard that name, he asked sharply. Ava's hands trembled, voice breaking nervously. He started this evening temporary assignment. He specifically requested these medications. Orion barked sharply, eyes locked urgently onto the tray. Emily swiftly took the medications, examining labels critically, instantly recognizing dangerous dosages and unfamiliar chemical compounds. Her expression hardened with grim certainty. This is poison, enough to stop Lauren's heart. Ava, who exactly handed you these? Ava burst into frightened tears, voice trembling. I didn't know. Dr. Lawson insisted, said it was an emergency treatment. Rachel Bennett's skepticism vanished abruptly, replaced by alarm. Agent Harper, locked down immediately, Secure all exits, she commanded urgently, finally recognizing Orion's invaluable instincts. Orion surged toward the corridor, Ethan and Rachel quickly following behind. At the nurse's station stood Dr. Lawson, a stocky, broad-shouldered man in his early 40s, clean-shaven with sandy hair, coolly calm despite the sudden chaos unfolding around him. As Orion's barking echoed down the hall, Lawson turned sharply, his eyes widening briefly before narrowing defiantly. "You're under arrest," Rachel announced firmly, FBI agents swiftly surrounding Lawson, subduing him forcefully before he could escape. Lawson hissed angrily, glaring venomously toward Orion, hatred distorting his previously composed features. "You meddling mutt. You ruined everything," Rachel observed coldly, sharply questioning Lawson. "Who sent you?" "Hartley." Lawson refused bitterly, jaw set stubbornly despite Rachel's persistent interrogation. Ethan and Harper quickly secured further evidence from Lawson's abandoned belongings, detailed instructions from Hartley outlining Lauren's assassination clearly. Meanwhile, Emily worked urgently alongside hospital staff, stabilizing Lauren, quickly neutralizing the toxic compounds Ava had unwittingly carried. Within tense minutes, Lauren's vitals improved noticeably, her breathing strengthening beneath Emily's vigilant efforts. Later, Rachel approached Ethan solemnly, respect evident in her expression. "I misjudged your dog's instincts, Officer Carter. Without Orion, Laura Mitchell would not have survived. My skepticism was misplaced. I owe him an apology." Ethan nodded appreciatively, glancing gratefully toward Orion resting quietly near Lauren's bed, his eyes warmly affectionate, watchful. "He's extraordinary, Agent Bennett. Orion has saved us multiple times." Rachel sighed quietly, visibly humbled. "You have my full cooperation going forward. Hartley's network clearly runs deeper than initially suspected. Dalton and Lawson were only intermediaries. We must locate Hartley immediately." Ethan's gaze hardened with resolve. "Hartley's cunning. He'll try hiding further underground. But together, with Orion leading us, we'll find him." Rachel extended her hand formally, her dark eyes sincere and determined. "Agreed, Officer Carter. From now on, Orion's instincts have full investigative backing." Emily joined Ethan quietly, squeezing his arm reassuringly. "Lauren's finally stable. Orion's saved her again." Ethan exhaled gratefully, relief softening his tense expression. "Thanks to all of us, especially Orion." Nearby, Orion rested calmly, his keen eyes attentively watching Lauren's improving condition. Yet his senses remained finely tuned, ever cautious. Danger lingered faintly outside immediate perception, its source still hidden within shadows surrounding Hartley's vast smuggling network. The first golden rays of morning slowly crested the horizon, illuminating Fairview Memorial Hospital in a warm, hopeful glow. Inside the quiet ICU, Lauren Mitchell stirred gently for the first time in days, her eyelids fluttering weakly. Her pale fingers moved slightly, seeking a familiar comfort. Orion lifted his head immediately, ears perked, deep brown eyes watching intently as Lauren's breathing strengthened and steadied. Her hazel eyes gradually opened, confusion giving way to relief when they landed on Orion, who stood vigilantly at her bedside. "Hey there, partner," Lauren whispered softly, her voice hoarse from disuse, yet filled with warmth and gratitude. Orion's tail thumped rhythmically against the floor, expressing relief that words couldn't fully convey. Nearby, Emily Foster watched quietly from the doorway, tears shimmering briefly in her emerald eyes before she smiled gently, stepping closer to check Lauren's vitals. "Welcome back, Lauren," she said tenderly, her vibrant red curls gleaming softly in the gentle morning sunlight filtering through the window blinds. "You've had us all worried." Lauren managed a weak smile, her strength slowly returning. "Thank you, Emily. Thank you for everything." Emily gently squeezed Lauren's hand, reassurance filling her expression. "You should thank Orion first. He's barely left your side." Lauren's gaze returned to Orion, filled with deep appreciation. Good boy. Orion, she murmured lovingly, gently stroking his fur as the dog pressed warmly against her side. Meanwhile, Ethan Carter stood in a nearby corridor, conversing quietly with FBI Special Agents Alex Harper and Rachel Bennett. Overnight, the FBI had conducted raids across Fairview, decisively dismantling Hartley's vast smuggling network. Harper looked tired but satisfied, his posture authoritative yet relaxed. Rachel stood next to him, a confident smile replacing her earlier cautious skepticism. "Officer Carter," Harper announced formally, handing Ethan a sealed envelope. "The mayor and city council have unanimously agreed, effective immediately, you're promoted to captain of Fairview Police Department." Ethan's blue eyes widened momentarily in surprise, the responsibility heavy but welcome. He was determined, resolute about creating lasting changes within the system. "I'm honored, Agent Harper. Fairview deserves justice and transparency." Rachel Bennett stepped forward, shaking Ethan's hand warmly. "Congratulations, Captain Carter. Your leadership throughout this crisis has proven exemplary. We'll maintain close collaboration going forward." Ethan nodded gratefully, deeply appreciating the FBI's steadfast support. "Hartley's capture is just the beginning. We'll rebuild trust within the community and department. Things will change." Back in Lauren's room, Orion's keen senses picked up Ethan's familiar footsteps approaching. Ethan entered quietly, a genuine smile breaking through his usual seriousness when he saw Lauren awake. "Glad you're back, Lauren," Ethan said warmly, relief clear in his voice. Lauren gave Ethan an appreciative smile, her energy slowly recovering. "I heard you've had quite the ordeal yourself." Ethan chuckled softly, glancing at his bandaged shoulder. "Nothing compared to what you faced. Orion kept us all safe. He deserves the medal." Lauren's eyes sparkled affectionately toward Orion. "He'll definitely get one." A gentle knock interrupted their conversation. Dr. Margaret Sullivan, the hospital administrator, entered softly, her demeanor calm and authoritative. Margaret, a woman in her late 50s, was slim and graceful, her graying blonde hair neatly styled, and her eyes reflecting quiet dignity and kindness. Known throughout Fairview Memorial for compassionate yet firm leadership, Margaret was respected by staff and patients alike. "Dr. Foster," Margaret began, addressing Emily with a warm smile, "after witnessing Orion's extraordinary capabilities firsthand, we've unanimously approved your proposal to launch a specialized K-9 security and therapeutic program here. We'd be honored if you'd oversee it." Emily's eyes widened with gratitude and excitement. "Thank you, Dr. Sullivan. Orion inspired this idea. He's proof dogs can deeply benefit hospital environments." Margaret nodded, genuinely pleased. "Exactly. Orion will be the official symbol of the program. Your work here has shown the entire staff how powerful and necessary such bonds can be." Emily knelt beside Orion, joyfully hugging him, emotion coloring her voice warmly. "Hear that, Orion? You've officially changed things around here." Orion leaned affectionately against Emily, contented yet still vigilantly attentive, ever ready to protect those he cared deeply about. Days later, Fairview Police Headquarters buzzed with renewed energy. Ethan, now formally recognized as captain, settled purposefully into Hartley's former office, immediately working to restore transparency, collaboration, and trust among colleagues. Marcus Clayton, newly appointed as Ethan's second-in-command, offered steady wisdom and support, ensuring smooth transitions throughout the department. Meanwhile, Lauren continued recovering rapidly, regaining strength daily under Emily's careful monitoring and Orion's unwavering companionship. Soon enough, Lauren could stand and walk steadily again, her determination and resilience admired deeply by everyone around her. Finally, on a sunny morning filled with promise, Lauren prepared to officially return to active duty. Orion stood beside her, proud and alert, both eager to continue protecting Fairview side by side. Ethan presented Lauren formally with a commendation for bravery, and Orion received the Medal of Honor for exceptional service, Fairview's first-ever K-9 recipient. The ceremony concluded warmly, surrounded by friends and colleagues applauding genuinely, recognizing Orion and Lauren's courage and dedication. Afterward, Ethan approached Lauren quietly, expression warmly sincere. "We couldn't have done this without you, Lauren." Lauren smiled warmly, glancing affectionately toward Orion. "And Orion, we wouldn't be here without him." Nearby, Emily proudly observed Orion's medal, deeply moved by the profound difference he'd inspired throughout Fairview. Orion, however, remained humbly attentive, indifferent to accolades, yet profoundly attuned to those he loved. Weeks later, Emily's K-9 program officially launched, dramatically transforming hospital safety and patient care. Orion regularly visited, mentoring younger dogs alongside Emily, deeply respected and admired across the hospital. At Fairview Police Department, Ethan tirelessly rebuilt community trust, rigorously transparent in investigations, ensuring integrity and respect prevailed over corruption. Marcus Clayton's steady presence ensured lasting stability, both men deeply committed to meaningful reform. Lauren and Orion resumed their duties patrolling Fairview's streets together, renewed and strengthened by challenges faced and conquered. Their bond remained unshakably loyal, a testament to friendship forged deeply through adversity. As Lauren and Orion patrolled Fairview Harbor one crisp, clear morning, Lauren paused thoughtfully, gazing affectionately toward Orion. "You ready, buddy? We've got a town to protect." Orion barked confidently, eyes brightly determined, deeply connected to Lauren by trust and loyalty beyond words. Together, they moved forward beneath the bright sunlight, dedicated fully to protecting their beloved community, forever united in purpose and friendship. Fairview's dark chapters had ended decisively. The dawn had finally broken, revealing a community healed, strengthened, and protected, guided firmly by unwavering dedication, courage, and loyalty embodied fully by Lauren Mitchell and Orion, her steadfast partner. In this heartfelt story of Lauren and Orion, we learn that true friendship, loyalty, and courage can overcome even the darkest times. Just like Orion, who stood faithfully beside Lauren, we too should always trust our instincts, protect those we love, and never lose hope. If this story touched your heart, please share with friends, leave a comment, and subscribe for more inspiring stories. May God bless and protect each of you, guiding you safely through life's journey. Comment Amen if you believe in the power of loyalty and faith.